Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight, 24 hours away from WrestleMania, and the WWE follows up Monday Night Raw's worst go-home show of all time with an episode of Smackdown that was easily the laziest go-home show I have ever seen, as this WrestleMania edition of Smackdown was really nothing more than a glorified WrestleMania kickoff show. 2 hours long, and it featured two matches that should be taking place at the show of shows itself, and nothing but promo packages galore to stuff your eyeballs and waste time on the road to WrestleMania. The worst road to WrestleMania I think any of us have ever ridden down, and we are going to talk about it all right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare. You are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Friday Night Smackdown review and reaction show, WrestleMania edition. Let's do it.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
You know, one of the things this episode of SmackDown proves is that outside of the Universal Championship triple threat match that is the main event of this year's WrestleMania, they have given everything else absolutely no thought. They don't care about anything but this, and it kind of shows, because tonight's episode of SmackDown was only about 3 fiery, passionate promos from all 3 competitors, Daniel Bryan, Edge, and Roman Reigns, spitting fire on the mic tonight, each respectively doing a fantastic job of telling their part in the story, and Roman Reigns finished it off in spectacular fashion. And I don't believe Roman Reigns is going to lose this Sunday at WrestleMania, but there is that little bit of doubt in the air, just based off of everything that is being said and the story that they are trying to tell. We're just not quite sure. There's a huge part of me that doesn't believe it's going to happen, but that little bit of doubt just hangs in the balance. And that's what you need in a build to any match. You don't want it to be predictable. And even when you know it's going to kind of be predictable, you need to give the audience some reason to watch, because maybe, just maybe, the obvious choice is not going to be what happens. Now, I don't suspect that the WWE has enough brain power to pull off anything interesting for this championship match at WrestleMania, but it has easily been the best booked, the best built, and the most intriguing match of the entire weekend to come. The thing about this episode of SmackDown that I think aggravated me the most was that as soon as they put this WrestleMania moniker onto this episode of SmackDown, they decided that it would be okay to take something like the André the Giant Battle Royal and put it on a Friday Night SmackDown. Listen, now, if you're going to honor a character and a person like André the Giant, who means almost everything to the success of WrestleMania. If WrestleMania 3 doesn't go down, we might not be sitting here 20-something, 30-something years later talking about WrestleMania at all. And to pay homage to André at WrestleMania by giving him this Memorial Battle Royal seems like the right thing to do. Now, the WWE, since they have put this Battle Royal in play, has done absolutely nothing with the winner of this thing for the last 7 years. Since WrestleMania 30, we have had 6 different Battle Royals up until tonight. Tonight was the 7th. Obviously, we skipped last year because of the COVID pandemic. And none of the winners of this thing ever even matter. That already was a slap in the face to this. But now that it has gone from being on the WrestleMania card to being put on the pre-show to being moved to a SmackDown, a show that André the Giant has never even heard of or been on, a show that was made like 15 years after the Giant passed away from this earth, it's just insane to me that they would put this on a SmackDown, because, yeah, the Battle Royal itself became meaningless, but having this on SmackDown even if it's WrestleMania edition SmackDown and not at the actual WrestleMania pay-per-view, makes the whole thing completely moot. It really, really makes it even less important and less needed. I'd rather them not have had it at all. When you think about the positive things about the André Battle Royal, is it was a way to get many superstars on the card of WrestleMania that weren't really involved in anything going on that year so that they could be part of the big show, which I thought was a good idea. It didn't bother me too much. But when you're doing it like this and you're taking it off the show altogether, and history has told you that this Battle Royal means nothing to the winner anyway, does it really matter who comes out on top when this match is all said and done? No, it does not. And though the winner that they chose this year might have been the one that made the most sense, given the fact that main event Jey Uso has been putting on match after match after match and has really earned his stripes this year and hasn't gotten a win in nearly 5 months. He's done nothing but lose. This was a great way to pay it forward and give the kid back something. He can walk around saying he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but don't you think it would have been a little bit more special to Jey if you actually did it on WrestleMania? Little things like that is what pisses us off and is what makes us bring things like the poop hammer down on the WWE altogether. Although I like the fact that Jey Uso won, I think he deserved it. It's not about any of those things, but the poop hammer falls simply because the Andre the Giant Battle Royal should not have taken place on SmackDown and should be happening over the course of the weekend. If you weren't going to do anything on this show to further the story with Seth Rollins and Cesaro, who had absolutely nothing to do with this show tonight outside of a promo package, then why bother having it at WrestleMania? You're not telling the story in a meaningful way. It's almost about as meaningful as the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, so you might as well just flip-flop them and have the Battle Royal there, or at the very least, this tag team turmoil nonsense. Why wasn't that women's 5-way tag team scenario put on this ridiculous episode of SmackDown so that you could have had the Battle Royal at the main show if you were worried about it taking too much time and making the show too long? There's a million other things you could have done to not disrespect a legend like Andre the Giant. I find the whole thing disrespectful, and that's why it pisses me off, which is a very hot topic for me tonight. But as meaningless as it is, let's move along. Let's talk about this show up and down. The Daniel Bryan segment was fantastic as he opened the show in the way only Daniel Bryan can. I can only imagine how much better all of this would be in front of a live crowd. One of the things I'm looking forward to the most about WrestleMania this weekend is having the crowd back in attendance, and I hope that they have their voices ready and are there to have a good time and don't sit on their hands and do nothing for WrestleMania. But I'm looking forward to that just about as much as Daniel Bryan is, because that was pretty much the point of his promo. He said the Thunderdome is great, but there's nothing like performing in front of a live audience. He went on to put over guys like Edge and Roman Reigns, his opponents, by saying that they are both very, very dangerous men. But they're not facing Family Man Daniel Bryan. They're not facing this watered-down version of Daniel Bryan. They are getting the most dangerous Daniel Bryan they will have ever seen. And he said one last thing to the crowd who was not actually there. Can Daniel Bryan walk out of the main event of WrestleMania as the Universal Champion? And of course, the answer is yes. To him, in his own mind, and to the person playing the canned audio in the back. So Daniel Bryan believes in himself. He's a very dangerous man. And he's bringing his A game on Sunday, and it gets you fired up. It gets you looking forward to it. And the only problem with that is that it's the only thing I think most of us are truly looking forward to. We then went into something that I thought, again, not that the tag team championships on SmackDown or on Raw are truly deserving of a spot at WrestleMania, because the tag division has been the drizzling shits. But if you're going to have it, you might as well have it at the pay-per-view. And then they did something that kind of, I thought was really, really stupid. As they started introductions here or right before the introductions were about to begin, the Dirty Dogs jumped the Street Profits, who were in the middle of a promo before the match. And then next thing you know, Otis and Chad Gable come out. Now they're getting involved in the scuffle. And then Tiny Dad and Giant Baby Man-Son come out, the Mysterios. They getting involved in the scuffle. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm going to ask you, let's say you and I were in a tag team, and we have a chance to win the tag team championships in this fatal four-way. And we're standing in the back, and we see the other three teams, like jerk-offs, beating the shit out of each other, throwing each other around on the stage, and just really going at each other. Why are we going to run in and jump in on the battle? Why not let these ass clowns beat themselves silly and then go and pick the bones of whoever's left? That's what I would do. That's what I would do. But you see, they didn't do anything interesting storytelling-wise like that. All they did was use this as a way to go to commercial and then come back and have all the four tag teams involved in the match without any of them getting an entrance. Because we needed more time to show promo packages. Because they had nothing else written for this show. And this was your very, very typical WWE Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match, full of a bunch of spots. It was a decent match as far as tag team matches go, and you would expect that. I mean, if you look at the level of talent in the ring, you're going to get some good stuff. But they told the story of the Street Profits coming so close to winning, but in the end, the Dirty Dogs turned it around and retained and are still your tag team champions. And in my opinion, if you weren't going to use this as an opportunity to put the belts on somebody else, why bother having it at all? Right? Maybe that was the mentality. Well, we're not going to change anything, so let's not even bother putting it at WrestleMania. It was a wasted match. It was something that really should be happening. Championship matches should be saved for pay-per-views and special events, not thrown away on go-home shows that are actually pre-shows in disguise. While the match quality was good, at the end of the day, it means absolutely nothing. We got a promo from Bianca Belabbs. Holy shit, I'm changing her name to Bianca Belabbs. She was standing there and all I could see was this girl's abs. It's like they were alive and they actually wanted to come out and party with the rest of us on the road to WrestleMania. Those abs are so defined. Her body is sick. Absolutely sick. She must really put in the work, and it shows. Now, aside from that, I'm not trying to down any of this. You all know how excited I have been for the Bianca Belair Sasha Banks match at WrestleMania. I've been one of its hugest proponents since she won the Royal Rumble. Bianca Belair has been like the light of my eyes. You know, like when I think about that match with Sasha Banks, it's one of the things that I thought I would really be anticipating, and I am. But this Bianca Belair, this babyface Bianca Belair, just kind of lacks a little something character-wise. She's not popping on the screen the way she used to pop in NXT, and it's almost the same story with everybody that gets called up, right? They just kind of get a little bit watered down. But what doesn't help is that you got Sasha on the opposite end, and she's kind of heel. I think she supposedly made a heel turn somewhere along the line, but she's just coming off as Sasha, but she's still not quite the boss Sasha Banks with that real arrogance and that real attitude, and neither one of them are acting like they're actual characters, which makes the whole thing feel a little bit watered down. And the way that they booked this feud up until this point gives us no reason to be excited. They didn't double down on Bianca's athletic prowess. They didn't let Sasha Banks run a tear of terror and just absolutely, bully and get at Bianca Belair at every step. There's been no real tension there outside of the manufactured and mandatory, well, let's see if they can coexist as a tag team bullshit, which we have seen 6 times in the last month with like every single championship that they have. So it's lacking that big match feel. And as much as I am happy for them that they have the main event of night 1, the story being told so far doesn't make it really warrant having the final match of the night. Not that Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre does, but really the way they told this story could have been much better. They could have made it feel main event, but instead they just made it feel like a title match. And I'm all for them having this moment, and on a personal level, I'm proud of them both, and I'm happy that they're going to be in the main event. I'm happy for them personally. But when you just take a look at it logistically, it was not built as a WrestleMania main event, so it doesn't really feel like it. So does it actually deserve the last spot of the night? Well, I'm going to tell you guys something that I think the only reason they made this the main event and the final match of the night is that regardless who ends up the victor, they are going to be confronted by the man, Becky Lynch, as she comes back to WrestleMania on night 1 of WrestleMania. And if that does happen, it's ass backwards. WrestleMania is not the time for Becky Lynch to come back and step all over the moment of whoever wins, like they did with Ronda and Asuka at the Royal Rumble a couple of years back. You save that for the show after WrestleMania, the surprise return. You know, let Bianca Belair, if she's going to win, have her moment and gloat and enjoy the moment without having to be confronted by a returning superstar. That's not what the end of WrestleMania is for. That's supposed to be for celebration and for storylines culminating and coming to an end. But this is the agenda, people. This is what we're going to get, and they're going to throw Becky Lynch right back to the top, which I don't really have any problem with. She had to surrender her championship because she got pregnant. Now that that's all said and done and she's ready to come back, it's almost a matter of time before they give it back to her, even though maybe that's not the right move right now. So is it possible that Bianca Belair wins the championship just to hand it back to Becky Lynch in a couple of weeks, or at the next pay-per-view, or at SummerSlam? I don't know. Would you be into that? Or would you rather Sasha retain if that's truly the story that they're going to go with, and we can have Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch? Let me know in the comment section down below which you would prefer post-WrestleMania. Because that's the only thing we're going to have to care about in the women's division going forward. Because when you get matches like Tamina versus Nia Jax on SmackDown, you know you're going in the wrong direction as far as the women's division. This was unnecessary. This was not needed. We have seen on every show for the last 2 weeks the entirety of the SmackDown and Raw women's tag team divisions confronting each other and having their little brawls, and what about us, and what about us, and that's essentially what this was. Tamina defeated Nia Jax in a garbage match by disqualification because of outside interference from Shayna Baszler and fucking Reginald getting his nose in where it don't belong. Who cares? This is another thing that gets a big fat Nia Jax size poop hammer dropped on it, because no matter where they go with this, I don't care. The tag team turmoil, the women's tag team championships on night 2, I don't care. This is filler, this is bathroom break match, and it hurts me to say that because I love women's wrestling, but I hate WWE's booking of women's wrestling. It's absolutely ridiculous. The promo packages tonight, like we said, were fast and furious and were coming at us from left and right. But there was one, I think, that outshined all of the rest, and it was the one for Big E. If you haven't watched Big E's special, I think it's not 24. What the hell is it? Is it a Chronicle or something? They just released a Big E documentary on the WWE Network. And after watching it, I love the man even more. It talks about his upbringings and everything, and they tapped into that in this promo where he was sitting there getting his hair done by his barber, Big J from Tampa. He talked about that this is his home. He's in the right mindset. He played in the Raymond James Stadium as a high school all-star. And he promised Apollo Crews that when he steps foot in Big E's Tampa, it's going to be where his Intercontinental Championship dreams come to die. It was a fantastic promo. Big E is full of charisma. I do not want him to lose the Intercontinental Championship to Apollo Crews in this Nigerian drum fight. bum, which I've been doing that now. And if there's no drums around ringside at WrestleMania, I'm going to be very upset. And they really will have dropped the ball. So hopefully they have some people doing a little Tonga drum. Bum, 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 bum. I don't know if I even said that right. Tonga drum? Is it a Tonga? Tamba? I don't know. I'm not a drummer. All right, I play the fucking guitar. All right, give me a break. So let's move past that. Awesome promo from Big E. Loving his whole reign so far. He's got a different edge to him, and I think you're looking at a great future for the former New Day Heavy. Or he still is New Day, but, let's not get into the logistics of things. We then had to see the same exact promo for the Fiend and Randy Orton's feud that we seen on Monday Night Raw. See, on Monday Night Raw, they couldn't think of jack shit for them to do to tell this story or to push it forward, so they just showed you everything they've done so far. And being that this is SmackDown, WrestleMania Smackdown, which is actually nothing more than a pre-show, let's just show this beautiful bean footage again. And we got to see the crispy fried Fiend with his little toasty marshmallow face, and everything that we've had to stomach, from the black goo to Alexa and her blue whited out eyes, or whatever fucking color they are, and the levitation and the spooky, and I'm done with it. I'm done with it. And then you take into account that they haven't even booked this as a Firefly Funhouse match or some sort of a cinematic match, because they have an actual crowd there and they want to pay this off for the crowd. How good could it possibly be? The only thing about this feud that I'm looking forward to it is that it's coming to an end. Okay, hopefully. And after WrestleMania, they could bury this one under the failure pile with the rest of everything that Bray Wyatt does. So, then, of course, we touched briefly on the tag team turmoil match, which was a fatal four-way. We talked about it last week, how somebody in the media department fucked up and leaked the wrong picture that showed Carmella and Billie Kay as part of this matchup, and it was actually a 5-team turmoil match. And the only thing that they did to validate this, they didn't show Billie Kay and Carmella coming to some sort of agreement. They didn't show anything interesting at all. They did the same old shit, and all the girls were in the back, and suddenly Billie Kay and Carmella were there, and they were just like, hey, guess what? We're in this match too. And then next thing you know, everybody's beating everybody up. The standard shit they've been doing with these girls, and I don't care. I don't care. Some of the spots were interesting here, like they were throwing girls into equipment and stuff. Liv Morgan looked actually like she might have really got hurt, but she's either really good at selling or somebody really messed her up. Either way, I could care less about it. I really, really, really could. Edge came out. It was his turn to spit fire on the mic, and he did just that. He talked about going to WrestleMania 6, watching Hogan against the Warrior. He knew this was the only thing he wanted to do with his life. He talked about Daniel Bryan weaseling his way into his WrestleMania moment. Now, although Edge was fantastic here, he called Roman Reigns the Samoan Edge, because everything about Roman Reigns is nothing more than a mirror of Edge. They both came in 3-man factions. They both used to come through the crowd. He kept drawing parallels between the two, which are pretty accurate. He called Daniel Bryan an indie bookstore troll person, which actually made me laugh. And it was all very positive. But let's think about his point for 1 second. He keeps saying, I won the main event. I won the Royal Rumble, which gets me into the main event of WrestleMania. And none of that has changed. He's still in the main event of WrestleMania. And the way he's coming at it, it's almost like the WWE took him out of the main event. Like, he's mad Daniel Bryan stuck his nose in his business. And that didn't cost you your spot. It didn't cost you your main event. It just made somebody else be a part of your match, which does kind of limit your chances, but it also makes your chances a little bit greater. Because now, yeah, Daniel Bryan might be able to beat Roman Reigns, and you can lose your opportunity at getting your Universal Championship back, but conversely, you could do the same. you could win the match without having to beat Roman Reigns. So what is it really about? Are you mad that you are losing the opportunity to beat Roman Reigns? And he kind of answered that tonight. But all in all, Edge's turn here just kind of comes off a little bit weird. I like Edge as a heel. I feel him much better as a heel. But his point just seems a little convoluted. Because he's mad that his WrestleMania main event has been changed. But he's coming off as if he's not in the main event anymore. It's a little bit confusing. I just don't understand why he's so mad. Daniel Bryan earned his way into the match. Sure, you don't have to be happy about it, but I don't know why he's as mad as he is. It just seems a little bit much to me. And even though this awesome promo got me hyped for the match, I just don't really understand where he's coming from. If you understand and you want to enlighten me, feel free to drop your comment in the comment section and try to educate me, because I get it. You know, somebody else now has a chance, but so do you. So worry less about Daniel Bryan being in the match and worry more about doing what you do best, being the ultimate opportunist, and win that match at any cost. That's all you need to do. Moving on, there was a very strange segment in the back where Sonya Deville was talking to the GM, who's not actually the GM, but acts as the GM, Adam Cole, where they were talking about that triple threat main event. And it was weird because Sonya Deville was like, she disagrees with the triple threat. She thinks it should just be Edge versus Roman. And part of me was afraid that by the end of the night they were going to do something to change it, but certainly that was not the case. She also didn't think it was fair to make Ziggler and Rude defend against 3 different teams in the Fatal 4-Way earlier in the night, and I'm standing here going, where is any of this coming from? She's a competitor. Why does she give a shit like this? Are they going to do some kind of a Sonya Deville takes over SmackDown after WrestleMania? I think I might be into it, but she seems, I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh. She just came out of nowhere. Like her opinion matters. Is she the assistant to the GM who's not the GM? Like, I don't even know. I don't know where they're going with it. Adam Pearce was confused by it just as much as I was. We had Kayla Braxton interviewing Sasha Banks in the back, who mocked Bianca Belair for thinking that she's the best. Banks said that nobody cares about Belair and everybody wants to hear from the boss. She then stereotypically promised to defeat Bianca Belair and retain her championship in the main event of night 1 at WrestleMania. Then we got to take a look back in another promo package for Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre, a match that I don't really give 2 shits about, to be completely honest with you. And now that they're not getting the main event, you could almost guarantee that they are going to go on first for night 1. And I don't care. I actually, selfishly, and very malicious on my part, I want Drew McIntyre to get booed. I do. And it's not because of anything he did per se. It's just simply because Bobby Lashley is the hot hand. And if the WWE did all this for Lashley and built him up and gave him the Hurt Business only for him to dissolve the Hurt Business right before WrestleMania, probably when he would need them the most as the heel in the scenario, to give the belt back to Drew McIntyre just so he could win in front of fans and do a repeat of last year without Brock Lesnar, that is not entertaining to me. You have to read the room. You have to go with the flow of the show. You have to feel the pulse of your audience, and I think majority of us are in the corner of Bobby Lashley, the Almighty, for the first time in a long time, and they need to capitalize on that and not just go back to the status quo and do what you did last year because you didn't get to do it in front of people. So I'm not interested in this match in the least. Of all the matches that I was hoping would be a triple threat, I was hoping Brock Lesnar would find a way to come back and insert himself in this match, and that would have made it more interesting. I actually wanted it to just be Bobby versus Brock, but that's obviously not what we're getting. Will it be a good match? I'm sure. Both of these guys can really go in the ring, but I'm just not looking forward to it. I have no investment in it. I only want to see Bobby Lashley win, and I really don't think that's going to be the case. We then got another recap between everything that happened between Sami Zayn and Logan Paul and Kevin Owens from last week, only to follow that up with a vignette of Sami Zayn going to meet up with Logan Paul, who was sparring in his personal gym, I guess, with his brother Jake Paul, because I guess if you have one Paul, you have to have both Pauls, right? Since they're both such famous celebrity, whatever you want to call them, YouTube, I don't know. They don't mean anything to me. I don't care. And all this segment did was serve to make Sami look even foolish, because his personal guest, Logan Paul, was acting like, what the hell are you doing here, Sami? Sami was trying to talk about how everything was going so great. The premiere of the trailer went so great. And then he offered to spar. He's, oh, you know what? I got my gear in the car. I'm going to go get my gear and I'll come in, and the three of us, we could spar together since we're all such good friends, right? And Logan and Jake Paul are staring there, looking at him like he's absolutely crazy. Sami Zayn goes out a door, and then the door closes behind him, and he can't get back in. And then when he bangs on the door, he gets approached by a security guard who obviously should have seen him in there and wouldn't let him back in. And then Sami Zayn shows up at the commentary booth as we get back to SmackDown from this vignette, and he's mad that they showed the vignette. And he's screaming at Michael Cole and claimed he had breakfast with them this morning and that he eats grapefruit salad, and that it was just kind of ridiculous. And then Kevin Owens came out, beat the snot out of Sami Zayn, and then they ran and brawled to the back. They talked about the whole lineup at WrestleMania, and it just made me wonder, man, I'm not really looking forward to any of this. And then we had the André the Giant Memorial Battle Royal to close the show, match-wise, only the third match on the entire night. And when you look at the amount of talent that was in this match, it's depressing. It's depressing. You have guys in this match like Akira Tozawa, grossly underused, Angel Garza, terribly misused, Cedric Alexander, and Shelton Benjamin, who should still be in the Hurt Business, flanking Bobby Lashley, not in this Memorial Battle Royal that gives you absolutely nothing. Drew Gulak, who's talented as anybody else on the roster. You have Elias, who's been wasted. Eric from the Viking Raider Warrior Raiders made a comeback. He was in there for no friggin' reason whatsoever. Gran Metalik, Humberto Carrillo, and all of the rest of the Lucha Libre wrestlers, the Lucha House Party. I didn't really care too much for any of that, and I don't think many of you guys did either. You had Buddy Murphy, Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura. Tucker was in there. Tucker from Heavy Machinery. Holy shit, where have you been? Why don't you go get your tag team partner back? And this Battle Royal was not bad. I mean, it was a spot fest. Everybody had their spots. For some reason, Benjamin and Alexander got targeted by everybody else because they, as a tag team, decided to work together, and the entire rest of the field of the Battle Royal thought, hey, let's get rid of these guys. And then they did. The Hurt Business was out of business once again, having no impact in this Battle Royal really whatsoever. They had a couple of misfires here, and yeah, Ali and Teabag and Mace and Slapnuts, they all kind of got involved at certain points in the match. But you would think, with the way everything went for Retribution, that these guys would be gunning at each other from the opening bell. But I guess they didn't seem to care too much when they were teaming up once again to take out the Hurt Business instead of beating the shit out of these guys that pissed them. You know, Ali just shit all over you. Shouldn't he have been the target of your aggression right from the get-go? 3-on-1, you could have done it. Seems like T-Bar and Mace are kind of sticking with the tag team thing going on. Slapnuts was just doing his own thing. He got eliminated quite easily, and I really could care less about anything that was happening up until we got to about the final 5, which was not ideal. But we had Baron Corbin, we had Nakamura, we had Jey Uso, Ricochet, and Ali. Those were your final 5. Almost immediately, one right after the other, Ricochet and Ali were eliminated. It was an impressive spot. There was something really cool Ricochet did in order to eliminate Ali at the time. It was really, really good. And the final 3 came down to Constable King Dickhead Shinsuke Knox and Jey Uso. And at this point for me, the writing was on the wall. The final two were Jey Uso and Shinsuke Nakamura. It's almost criminal for Jey Uso not to have won this thing, so they did the right thing. And as much as, Shinsuke needs a big moment as well, like I said at the get-go, you don't get anything for winning this Battle Royal. It hasn't done anything for anybody that's won it before, so what does it really matter who wins it now? At least the very least they could do is use it to reward a guy that has been putting on hell of matches week after week, putting his body on the line on this shitty road to WrestleMania in part of one of the biggest stories that they're telling all year. He's played his part. He's played it perfectly. So Jey Uso winning the Battle Royal is just fine. Lo and behold, Jey couldn't celebrate too long because suddenly his big cousin, the head of the table, the big dog, the head cheese, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, comes out. And he admitted that Edge and Daniel Bryan both had some impressive things. They had one good night, one good week here or there. But Roman Reigns has been there every week since SummerSlam. He helped swing the ratings back up, which is not true. But it's not his fault that the ratings remain the same as they have been. He said he's not a dreamer. He keeps getting pissed off that Bryan is talking about tapping him out. He promises Daniel Bryan won't make him tap out this Sunday. He then mocked Edge for trying to make his comeback story complete. Roman isn't a dreamer. He's the head of the table. Very fiery, impassioned promo by the champ. Pretty much putting everybody else in their place. He promised at the end of the night, after the main event of WrestleMania, the world will finally acknowledge him as head of the table, which I think most of the world kind of already does. And he promised that it's not a prediction, it's a spoiler, in the words of Paul Heyman. And that was the end of SmackDown's go-home show, which was more like a pre-show. To me, the kickoff show comes early on this WrestleMania edition of SmackDown. Loaded with promos, and I'll tell you, it was a smart thing for them to do. Because they shit the bed so bad on Monday night with the Raw go-home show, they probably really had no idea where to go forward with anything, which is why we didn't get anything for Shinsuke and Cesaro, which is why we really didn't get anything building towards any of the matches outside of the triple threat. And they doubled down on what WWE does do well. Because if there's one department in the whole entire company that does their job right, it's the editing department. They make these promo packages, they take these packages and they make these scenarios and these situations that we've lived through for the last couple of months that have not been very good, and they take all the shit and turn it into a beautiful piece of art, complete with poetic music and, just a really great sense of editing. They know what they're doing. They're not like the merchandise department that just as lazy as creative on this show. What was that shirt? Roman Reigns has a shirt that says "Acknowledge me," but that's all it says. And it's got his little logo on the bottom. You want to talk about lazy design. All text, just really bad. Really ugly shirt. Because they're as terrible at designing merchandise as they are as putting on wrestling shows. But the best and most efficient department in the company is the editing department, and it shows in each and every one of these promos. The problem is that we're going to see them again and again and again, because we're going to see it on each pre-show for each night. We're going to see it leading up and into every single match. Most of them we have already seen 2 or 3 times already. So maybe it was smart for them. Well, these guys got their shit together. What they put together is a good show. Let's just show all the video promos and give the 3 best talkers on the mic on the show some promo segment time, and then we'll just fill it in with WrestleMania matches and one garbage female match that means absolutely nothing. That's the gist and the general roundup for this episode, WrestleMania edition of SmackDown. Thank you guys so much for for joining me on this ridiculous road to WrestleMania, which finally comes to a conclusion tomorrow night and Sunday night. I'm not looking all that much forward to it. As we've said multiple times, I'm excited to see the live crowd. I'm excited to be out of the Thunderdome. And I'm excited for the Universal title match. I'm happy for Sasha and Bianca. Don't get me wrong. You know, I didn't mean to shit on it a little, but you know, it should feel bigger than it does. It really should. But that's all we're going to say from now on. Thank you once again for joining me on this road. We are going to be here all weekend long bringing you coverage of WrestleMania. NXT TakeOver was great. Maybe that's why I'm so hard on this SmackDown. No, that's not why. I'm hard on SmackDown and I'm hard on Raw because they're just awful. They're just awful. But I will see you tomorrow night as we bring the hammer down on night 1 of WrestleMania, and then again Sunday night. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss a thing and you know exactly when we go live. Well, not live, but you know, with the premiere, when the video goes live on YouTube. And make sure you smash that like button if you had a good time here with us today. And don't forget to share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, because WrestleMania is a time for us all to come together and bring the hammer down on the WWE, only as the Sledgeheads of Sledge Nation can do. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, his tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue, the Snowball, the most important member of the team. As always, each and every one of you, if you missed anything along the road to WrestleMania, it'll be nestled nicely right in the upper right-hand corner. Click the eye above my head to watch anything else. And we will see you all weekend long for WrestleMania 37 from Raymond James Stadium. That's going to do it. We are out of here. We will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com.